I'm addicted to finessing. I'm addicted to finessing. I'm addicted to finessing. I'm addicted to finessing.
Welcome back to your Daily Dose of Dom. I'm your host, Dom. Today we're talking about the Hebert scandal, okay? The Hebert family fumbles. Okay, so in the shoe industry, there's this subcategory of retail for resale. And with resale, there's this culture, and I don't like the culture because I feel like it kind of creates this hoarder mentality between people. But we're gonna break it down and wait for the talk. So in this resale culture, there are these things called bots. You will need this information, so let's define it. Bots are basically these digital line skippers, line placeholders, and you have to have someone to make you one. And if you use a bot properly, if you want to make an online purchase, no matter how big the demand is, there's a great chance that you will get what you are looking for. The issue is bots are expensive. So if only they're expensive, so if only people with money can afford them, then we're in turn letting people who can't afford a bot off from getting whatever item it is that's on sale. That's not fair. But always fair in loving shoes. Now, let's break it down why bots are weird. If you have a big company, let's say Bike, right? And this company makes 10 pairs of shoes. Statistically, all 10 pairs of shoes should go to 10 different households. But if you have a bot, there's a great chance that you can buy all 10 pairs of shoes yourself if you have the financial means. But there's this hierarchy in shoes. Some shoes are worth more than others. Some shoes have a greater demand than others. It's a whole thing. But you're forcing people to not only wait for the release, but you're also forcing people to wait for the re-release when it becomes up for grabs once the person who's bought it with the bot wants to now in turn place the price on it and then sell it to the public. Bots are not your friends. Now that we've set the stage, let me introduce you to a guy named Cole. Cole is this high school kid, white kid, raised in a well-to-do family. Cole is a reseller, and in his prime, Cole in high school was making $100K a month selling shoes. And his private information about shoes, including what shoes are going to be worth what, how many you should expect, information and the actual products. Cole making $100K a month in high school, 1.2 million a year, you can't beat it with a stick. But how did Cole learn these things? Cole would take these aggressive pictures in front of his home. Literally, you couldn't even see the home past him because he just had shoe boxes floor to ceiling. He took pictures on his patio. You couldn't see his patio, shoe boxes floor to ceiling. Cole was using bots. But what else was Cole using? So by the time Cole was in college, Cole was making roughly $200K a month as a freshman, okay? And that is on information alone, not including the money he's making from actually reselling these shoes. He would have so many young people envious of him, and he was racking up all of this money as far as his inventory for the actual product on his mom's credit card. Now, I don't know about you, but ain't no way on God's green earth I can rack up $100K on my mom's credit card and her let me do that for some shoes. Even if it was for a business, even if the business was successful. $100K is not a small amount of money for me or my mother to ignore. I don't think that's small for anybody, mom, to ignore, but Cole's did. Now, Cole lived or was raised in Portland, Oregon. And when he was getting interviewed, because let me be very clear, modesty ain't Cole's thing, right? Being humble, that ain't what you do over there. So he was getting interviewed as far as how does he have access to this knowledge, how does he have access, because a big part of his finances comes from him selling knowledge, but how are you getting and gaining this knowledge? Cole said, and I quote, "If you know the right people here, this is the city. The right people can give you access that like a normal person would not have access to." Cole's like 20 years old right now, so let's just let him have the likes. It is to be noted that at this point in time, off of information alone, Cole was making $1.7 million. But But after this conversation, the interviewer was like, oh snap, this is dope. Giving Cole all these praises. And then Cole and the interviewer got disconnected. And so Cole called back because, like I said before, modesty ain't his thing, because he wanted to bask back into the conversation. He was happy with the way the guy was gloating about him. Called back, come on, please, give me more, give me love, give me love. But when Cole called back, Ann Hebert's name showed up on the caller ID. Now, like most college students, Cole was getting his phone bill, his cell phone bill, still paid by his mother. The weird part is, Ann Hebert, after a quick Google search, turns out to be the general manager of the North Sector for the Nike company that we mentioned earlier, the multi-billion-dollar Nike company. And if you haven't guessed by now, the real name for the company, Nike, because I've been trying to avoid a lawsuit, is actually Nike. And their former vice president and general manager of the North American sector, Ann Hebert's son, actually was doing these things that I mentioned before. He's actually Cole. I have changed his name to avoid litigation issues, but the story is true. And she, in turn, has resigned. Not that she's claimed guilt or anything of that nature. But the one question I want to leave you with is, does all of this sound like a solo mission to you? See you next Monday at 9 a.m.
I'm addicted to finessing. I'm addicted to finessing. I'm addicted to finessing. I'm addicted to finessing. I'm addicted to